Hi everyone. Today I will brief high level understanding of welding. So what is welding? Welding is a fabrication process whereby two or more parts are fused together by means of heat, pressure or both, forming a joint as the parts cool. Welding is usually used on metals and thermoplastics. Now let us see what are the different joint types. First one is butt joint. Importantly, in a butt joint, the surfaces of the workpiece being joined are on the same plane and weld metals remains within the planes of the surfaces. Now, the second is T joint. In T joint, connection between the end or edge of one part and the face of the other part, the parts making an angle to one another of more than 5 up to and including 90-degree in the region of the joint. Next joint is corner joint. Connection between the ends of or edges of two parts making an angle to one another of more than 30 but less than 135-degree in the region of the joint. Next joint is lap joint. Connection between two overlapping parts making an angle to one another of 0 to 5-degree inclusive in the region of the weld or welds. Now let us see different types of weld. The one is from the configuration point of view. There are two types of weld. The one is butt weld and the second is fillet weld. There is another type of weld which is called autogeneous weld. Autogeneous weld is a fusion weld made without any filler metal by TIG, plasma, electron beam, laser or oxy-fuel gas welding. Next is slot weld. In slot weld, a joint between two overlapping components made by depositing a fillet weld around the periphery of a hole in one component so as to join it to the surface of the other component exposed through the hole. The last but not least is plug weld. It is a weld made by filling a hole in one component of a workpiece with filler metal so as to join it to the surface of an overlapping component exposed through the hole. The hole can be circular or oval. Now let us see different type of welds and their main features. So on the screen you can see it is a butt weld. There are various characteristic of that butt weld which are already mentioned on that labeled diagram. But I will just tell you a brief about each important characteristic. The one is parent metal, metal to be joined or surfaced by welding, braze welding or brazing. The second is filler metal, that is a metal added during welding, brazing or surfacing. Third is weld metal, which is all metal melted during the making of a weld and retained in the weld. Another very important term is heat affected zone or HAZ, the part of the parent metal metallurgical affected by the heat of welding or thermal cutting but not melted. Fusion line is the boundary between the weld metal and the HAZ in a fusion weld. Weld zone is a zone containing the weld metal and the HAZ. Weld face is the surface of a fusion weld exposed on the side from which the weld has been made. The root of a weld is a zone on the side of first run furthest from the welder. Toe is a boundary between a weld face and the parent metal or between runs. This is a very important feature of a weld since toes are points of high stress concentration and often are initiation points for different types of cracks, for example, fatigue and cold cracks. To reduce the stress concentration, toes must blend smoothly into the parent metal surfaces. Next is excess weld metal is the weld metal lying outside the plane joining the toes. Other non-standard terms for these features are reinforcement and overfill. So these are some of the acronyms that we use to define whether it is a fillet weld or butt weld. Okay, I think that's it for this video.